The hour has come. Heaven is no longer silent. Everything on earth is shifting, and your name has been spoken in the courts above. This moment is not a coincidence. It's a divine appointment written long before your birth. You didn't just stumble here by chance, you were guided. The very stirring you feel inside is heaven reaching for you. God is calling you out of routine, out of hesitation, out of fear, and into a higher purpose that has waited patiently beneath the surface of your life. Every tear you've cried, every delay that made you doubt, every closed door that left you wondering, none of it was wasted. It was preparation. It was heaven's hidden hand, shaping your character for a season such as this. The silence you endured was not absence, it was gestation. What felt like waiting was actually the forming of destiny. God hid you not to punish you, but to protect what he was growing within you. There's a sacred pattern in his pauses, and today, that pattern breaks open. You may have asked, why was I set apart? Why did people leave? Why did doors close? Because you were never meant to blend in. You were designed to stand out. You are not called to echo the noise of the crowd, but to carry the sound of heaven. The separation you felt was the signal that you've been chosen for something holy. God didn't call you because you were flawless. He called you because his power is made perfect in weakness. What he desires is not perfection, but willingness. The time for passive prayer is over. Heaven is moving, and now it's your turn to move with it. God is saying, step out of waiting and into obedience. Step out of fear and into formation. What is coming will not be delayed another moment, because divine timing has already struck. The clock of heaven has aligned with the heart of earth, and your spirit has been summoned to respond. From this day forward, your path will no longer be random. It will be ordered. The confusion that clouded your mind will start to lift. You will see that every valley you walked through was leading you toward this unveiling moment. The shift is not just coming, it has begun. What once was broken will become the foundation of your strength. What once felt delayed will move with divine acceleration. What once was lost will return, multiplied and refined. This is not the time to shrink back. This is the hour to rise. You were not born to survive history. You were born to shape it. The heavens are open, and the same voice that spoke creation into being is now whispering your name. When God speaks, his words don't echo into emptiness. They target the exact place where transformation must begin. What he is asking of you now may sound unusual, even unreasonable to the natural mind. But heaven's instructions are rarely designed for comfort. They are designed for obedience. Every miracle in Scripture was born from a command that didn't make sense at first. Build an ark before rain exists. March around walls instead of fighting. Cast your net again after a night of failure. The pattern never changes. Obedience precedes revelation. This time the instruction comes with precision. God is telling you to take what weighs heaviest on your heart, your fears, your needs, your hopes, your private prayers, and to write them down. Not to confess them to the world, but to surrender them to him. What you place in writing becomes a covenant between your spirit and heaven. Then he gives a location, a strange one to human logic, but sacred in divine design. He tells you to place it near the base of your spine, the very center where movement begins, the core from which you stand upright in both body and spirit. This is not superstition, this is spiritual alignment. You see, the Creator built your body not as a shell but as a temple, a living altar where his power flows through structure. The base of your spine is not just bone and tissue, it is the foundation of your being, the hidden root of stability and identity. When that root is aligned, heaven flows unhindered through your life. When it is blocked by fear, shame, or disbelief, everything above it suffers. That is why God chooses this precise place to awaken what has been dormant and to reclaim what was stolen. This act is not about the paper itself, but about the posture of surrender. The obedience of your body becomes the language of your faith. When your body bows to his word, your spirit begins to vibrate at heaven's frequency. It's the moment when submission turns into ignition. You are not performing a ritual. You are activating a covenant. Heaven is saying, do this, and I will meet you there. Because faith without motion is noise, but faith expressed through obedience becomes a key that unlocks movement in the unseen realm. Chosen one, understand this deeply. God does not need your logic. He needs your yes. When he calls you to act, it's not to test your comfort, but to transfer your inheritance. What feels strange to the mind becomes sacred in the spirit. The world may not understand why you obey, but heaven recognizes the signal of faith. The very moment you yield, divine order begins to rearrange the atmosphere around you. Things that resisted you will start to bow. Doors that seemed sealed will start to move. Alignment begins not with understanding, but with trust. So take the instruction as holy ground. Handle it with reverence. Write what your heart has carried in silence, then place it where heaven directs. Do it not out of superstition, but out of surrender. Because the same voice that formed galaxies is now forming something new within you, and the key is not how much you know, but how fully you obey. The command was not random. It was a revelation. God chose the base of your spine for a reason, because that is where life and alignment begin. From that hidden root, everything else in your being takes order: your posture, your balance, your movement, your strength. What the body reveals, the spirit reflects. A misaligned root in the body mirrors a misaligned foundation in the soul. When God directs your attention there, he is not speaking only to your flesh. He is addressing the architecture of your destiny. In the beginning, he formed humanity not from the mind downward, but from the ground upward. The root came first, then the breath. That means stability was always meant to precede vision. Without a grounded foundation, revelation becomes noise. The spine, that silent pillar within you, is the ladder between heaven and earth. Every vertebra is a step in the climb between faith and fulfillment, obedience and outpouring. When heaven touches that root, divine current begins to flow through your entire being like light traveling through a sacred wire. The enemy has always understood this mystery. That is why he attacks your foundation, your confidence, your identity, your physical energy. He wants your base to stay heavy, weary, disconnected. Because when your root is unstable, every part of you struggles to stand. Yet when that sacred root is awakened, your whole being becomes a living conduit of divine order. That is why God calls you to place your written prayer there, not as a ritual but as a reclamation. You are reclaiming what has been dormant. You are declaring that the ground of your soul belongs to heaven again. Think of the sacred root as the altar of your inner temple. It is the meeting place between creation and creator, the still point where human breath and divine wind converge. God designed it as a gate, an invisible threshold where his presence can descend through your structure into your story. And just as Jacob once saw a ladder stretching from earth to heaven, the spine within you is that same ladder in living form. Each rung is an act of obedience. Each breath is a step of ascent. Chosen one, when you honor the root, you are not bowing to your body, you are bowing to the wisdom of its design. You are telling heaven, I receive the way you built me. There is holiness in alignment. There is worship in stillness. And when your foundation aligns with divine order, everything above it, your mind, your voice, your decisions begins to harmonize with heaven's rhythm. The result is not chaos but clarity, not striving but flow. So when God tells you to focus on the root, he is not asking you to escape upward, but to return downward to the place where he first met you in creation. The sacred root is where divine authority rests. It is the silent throne of stability, the unshaken base from which all spiritual movement begins. Once it is awakened, fear loses ground, confusion loses grip, and the soul remembers how to stand. This is why the Lord chose that place, not because it is strange, but because it is sacred. He is not introducing a ritual, he is reintroducing a revelation. Heaven is rebuilding the foundation of your being so that when his power moves, your structure can hold the weight of glory that is coming. When God commands you to write, he is not asking for decoration, he is asking for revelation. Writing has always been sacred to him. From the tablets of stone given to Moses to the scrolls shown to John in Revelation, the act of inscription has carried the weight of covenant. What you put on paper is not just ink and words, it is evidence of faith. Heaven reads not your handwriting but your surrender. Each letter written in obedience becomes a seed planted in the unseen. The white paper is not ordinary. It is chosen for its purity, its emptiness, its silence. It has no record, no stain, no past, and that is precisely why God chooses it. He wants you to write on something that mirrors his mercy, clean, blank, ready to receive. The paper is your altar. The words you write are your offering. What flows from your heart onto that surface becomes a spiritual declaration. Here is my truth. Here is what I have carried. Here is what I now release. On that paper, God invites you to pour what has been buried, the grief you hid behind a smile, the prayer you never dared to say aloud, the questions you thought he ignored. He can only heal what you are willing to expose. So write without restraint. Don't filter the pain. Don't dress the wounds in poetry. Honesty is the language heaven understands best. When your confession meets his compassion, the exchange becomes divine. And then comes the symbol, the number, 1111. You've seen it on clocks, on screens, in passing moments, and wondered if it meant something. It does. It is not a superstition, it is a reminder of divine alignment. In heaven's arithmetic, ones represent beginnings, alignment, and unity. When doubled, they speak of acceleration, of time folding upon itself to bring promises closer. It is heaven's way of whispering, now is the moment. When you write it at the bottom of your paper, you are signing your agreement with divine timing. You are telling the Spirit, I am ready to move with you, not ahead of you. This small act is not about numerology, it's about posture. It's about training your heart to recognize when heaven calls for attention. God could have chosen thunder or dreams, but sometimes he chooses a number because he knows you will notice. The number does not carry power by itself. It carries meaning because of who sent it. Chosen one. When you fold that paper and hold it with reverence, understand that you are handling a physical symbol of a spiritual transaction. You are not performing a charm, you are forming a covenant. Heaven honors what you do with intention, and intention is what separates superstition from faith. When you move with pure motive, when you obey, not out of curiosity but conviction, the paper becomes a key. It opens the space within you that has been locked by fear, pride, or delay. So take the paper, white and untouched. Write your truth, your ache, your gratitude. Mark it with the sign of divine timing, then hold it as you would hold holy ground. You are not writing a wish, you are writing a witness. Because the moment heaven reads what you have written, the process of restoration begins. The blank page that once held your pain will soon hold your proof. Obedience is the bridge between promise and manifestation. It is the invisible hinge upon which miracles turn. Faith may open the door, but obedience walks through it. You can believe and still remain where you are, but once you obey, movement begins. Heaven never asked for your perfection, only your participation. The command to act is not punishment, it is partnership. When God gives an instruction, he is inviting you into the rhythm of his will. Every act of obedience, no matter how small, becomes a note in the melody of divine order. Throughout Scripture, obedience has always been the proof of faith. Noah built before he saw the rain. Abraham moved before he saw the land. Peter cast his net before he saw the fish. None of them understood the full picture, but all of them trusted the voice that spoke. Understanding can wait. Obedience cannot. When you move in faith, heaven recognizes your motion as worship, To the natural eye, it looks foolish, but to the spirit, it looks like alignment. That is why heaven moves so quickly toward those who move without argument. This is the truth few dare to grasp. Miracles are not random. They are structured responses to obedience. When you respond to divine instruction, you synchronize your life with heaven's geometry. The Spirit operates through pattern, sequence, timing, precision. Your act of obedience becomes the missing piece that allows those patterns to complete. Without it, blessings remain suspended, waiting for a vessel willing to receive through surrender. God does not withhold out of cruelty. He withholds out of order. Until the vessel aligns, the flow cannot be sustained. Chosen one, you've prayed for breakthrough, for clarity, for acceleration, and heaven has heard every word. But the waiting is not in the sky, it's in the soil of your obedience. The moment you act, the waiting ends. The command to place that folded paper where he directed may feel strange, but obedience has never bowed to logic. It bends logic. When you obey, your spirit sends a signal through every layer of creation. The unseen begins to rearrange itself around your yes. Angels respond to obedience faster than to emotion. Emotion trembles, but obedience moves. There are two kinds of faith, the kind that talks and the kind that walks. Talking faith sounds impressive, but walking faith changes reality. Every time you follow a divine instruction, you train your body to believe with your spirit. That unity, spirit, mind, and motion, is what activates heaven's design. The moment you align those three, energy that was once stagnant begins to flow, the blockage breaks, the current clears. Life returns to numb places. This is why obedience is more than duty. It is divine technology. It converts intention into impact. It turns prayer into movement and desire into destiny. It's not that God is waiting to bless you. It's that heaven is waiting for you to stand in the posture where blessing can land. The law of alignment is written into creation itself. The sun rises where the earth tilts. The same applies to your life. The shift happens where you lean into God's will. When you obey, the unseen applauds. Every act of surrender becomes a vibration that ripples through the spirit realm, announcing, "This one is ready." And when heaven hears readiness, heaven releases reward. You won't have to chase favor, it will find you. You won't have to force open doors, they will unlock as you approach. Because in the kingdom of God, obedience is not just the key, it is the language of power. The greatest battles are rarely fought in open fields. They are fought within the frame that carries your spirit. Every ache, every fatigue, every heaviness that lingers without reason is more than biology. It is a message. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. It holds the weight of unspoken prayers, unhealed wounds, and unbroken patterns. Where your muscles tighten, your spirit often trembles. Where your breath shortens, your faith has been holding its breath. God is now bringing light to the hidden war that has been waged inside you. The enemy's oldest strategy has never changed. He strikes the foundation. If he can bend your posture, he can burden your purpose. If he can keep your body weary, your worship weakens. The base of your spine, the root of strength and identity, has been his target since the beginning, because it is the place where power rises. When pain, stiffness, or numbness linger there, it is not random, it is resistance. It is the pressure of the unseen trying to keep you disconnected from the flow of divine energy that was designed to move freely through you. But the Lord is revealing this not to frighten you, but to arm you. Every revelation is an invitation to reclaim territory. When you place your written prayer at the foundation of your being, you are not performing a ritual, you are making a declaration. This ground belongs to God. In that moment, the body ceases to be a battlefield and becomes a sanctuary. What once was a target becomes a temple. Chosen one, hear this. Your back is no longer your burden, it is your banner. Every vertebra that carried sorrow is about to carry glory. The very area that was attacked will become the area through which power flows. When you obey the divine instruction, the war turns. You move from defense to dominion. You tell darkness, you cannot occupy what God now inhabits. And heaven backs that statement with force. This is why alignment matters. God never designed you to fight from exhaustion. He designed you to fight from stability. True warfare is not waged by shouting into the air, but by standing firm in peace. When your spirit, mind, and body agree on one thing, obedience, the enemy loses access. The battle ends not when you fight harder, but when you finally stand still in divine order. That stillness is not weakness, it is authority. Within that silence, something sacred happens. The trembling subsides. The pressure lifts. The body begins to breathe again. What was once a site of pain becomes a source of prophecy. Each breath whispers, I am whole. Each heartbeat echoes, I am aligned. Each step proclaims, I am free. The war that raged within you dissolves into worship. So do not fear the tension you feel. It is not the end, it is the turning point. Every battle hidden in your body is yielding to the power of revelation. The same frame that once carried trauma will soon carry triumph. God is not just healing your spirit, He is reclaiming His temple, cell by cell, bone by bone, breath by breath. For generations, people were taught to escape their bodies, to find God, to climb upward into the heavens while neglecting the sacred ground beneath their own skin. But the truth has never changed. God never abandoned the temple He built. The first altar was not made of stone, it was made of flesh and breath. When the Creator formed humanity from dust, He did not create an obstacle to holiness. He created a vessel for it. The body was never the enemy, it was the invitation. Yet, somewhere along the way, humanity learned to separate what God designed to unite. Spirit was praised, body was shamed, prayer became distant, worship became fragmented, and faith was stripped of embodiment. But heaven is now restoring what religion divided. God is calling you back to the temple of your own being, not to worship yourself, but to welcome Him back into the structure He designed to dwell in. He is not only the God above you, He is the God within you. When He told you to place that folded paper near your foundation, He wasn't asking for performance, He was initiating reconciliation. This is not rebellion against tradition, it is a return to divine design. Every cell, every nerve, every heartbeat was made to carry His frequency. The human body is not a prison of the spirit. It is its cathedral. God doesn't merely visit sanctuaries made by human hands. He inhabits living ones made by His own. You are that sanctuary. Chosen one, understand this with reverence. Your body is not simply a vessel of survival, it is a vessel of presence. When your body aligns with heaven, it ceases to resist and begins to radiate. The same energy that spoke light into existence begins to pulse through you. You no longer strive to reach God, you begin to carry Him. Worship ceases to be an act, you perform. It becomes the atmosphere you embody. Your breath becomes prayer, your stillness becomes an offering, your movement becomes prophecy. This is the mystery Christ revealed when He said, "The kingdom of God is within you." It was never meant to be distant, abstract, or unreachable. It was always designed to live and breathe through the very frame that bears His image. The moment you invite God back into your foundation, something shifts, guilt loosens, grace flows, and holiness becomes natural again. You begin to see your reflection not as an object to fix, but as a temple to fill. The act of returning to your body is an act of worship. The surrender of shame is an act of cleansing. And when God's Spirit meets your physical form, creation completes its circle, heaven and earth meet again in you. The same power that hovered over the waters now hovers within your spine. The same presence that filled the tabernacle now fills your lungs. You do not need to ascend to meet Him. He has descended to dwell in you. In this revelation, the sacred becomes simple. Eating becomes communion. Breathing becomes prayer. Rest becomes reverence. Every heartbeat is a reminder that God has made your body his altar once more. God is a God of timing, not of coincidence. Every act he commands carries the rhythm of eternity within it. When he asked you to hold that folded paper close for 3 days, it was not arbitrary, it was prophetic. The number 3 has always been heaven's signature of completion. In 3 days, the world was remade at the resurrection. In 3 days, light broke the power of death. 3 is the cycle of divine perfection, alignment, purification, and rebirth. The first day is the day of alignment. It is when the body and the spirit remember their covenant. On that day, heaven begins to measure you again, adjusting what has been tilted, straightening what has been bent by fear. You may feel restless, even heavy, as everything false starts to loosen its grip. Do not resist it. The discomfort is not punishment, it is proof that something sacred is rearranging itself inside you. The second day is the day of release. This is when the weight of years begins to lift. The soul exhales what it has carried too long. The heart empties its reservoirs of silent grief. You may find tears falling without reason, or memories surfacing that once lay buried. Let them come. The Spirit of God does not heal what you hide, he heals what you hand over. As the paper rests near your foundation, you are not only laying down requests, you are laying down burdens. Heaven hears every sigh as a song of surrender. Then comes the third day, the day of resurrection. This is the day when silence gives way to sound, when stillness turns to strength, when fire falls upon what was once cold. It may not arrive as thunder, it may begin as a pulse, a warmth, a clarity you cannot explain. That is how resurrection begins quietly, like dawn. It starts within the roots before it reaches the branches. What has been buried begins to bloom. What has been delayed begins to move. What has been declared dead begins to live again. Chosen one, this is the mystery of the 3 days. God is not merely changing what you do, he is changing what you are. On the first day, he touches your alignment. On the second, he cleanses your depths. On the third, he breathes fire into your foundation. The transformation is not symbolic, it is structural. Heaven builds from the bottom up. That is why the command focuses on the base of your spine, the root of your being. God begins where others overlook. He starts in the silent places, the hidden chambers, the forgotten corners. And in doing so, he proves that resurrection is not an event, it is a pattern that lives inside the obedient. For 3 days and 3 nights, heaven watches, waits, and works. The unseen realm takes note of your surrender. Angels align the path ahead. Patterns break, doors unlock, and the story that was paused begins again. By the end of the third day, you are not the same. You will not feel the same. Something ancient within you will awaken, whispering, "It is done." This is the rhythm of divine renewal. God works in threes because creation itself was built in threes: spirit, soul, and body, morning, noon, and night, death, burial, and resurrection. When you honor the full cycle, you step into the current of his creative order. You stop striving and start flowing. You stop asking when and start saying yes. So when the third day comes, don't rush it. Sit with it. Breathe into it. Let the quiet speak. Because resurrection doesn't always roar, it sometimes hums softly through the bones of the faithful. And when that hum becomes steady, you will know the same power that raised Christ from the dead is now rising within you. When resurrection begins, it rarely announces itself with noise. It starts in silence, in the rhythm of your breath, in the stillness between heartbeats, in the subtle clarity that begins to bloom where confusion once lived. The world expects lightning, but heaven often moves like light, unseen, precise, unstoppable. What God began during those 3 days is not an emotional moment. It is a reordering of creation within you. Alignment is heaven's geometry taking shape in your being. The law of inner resurrection is simple but profound. What God revives within you must stay aligned with him to remain alive. Resurrection without alignment leads to relapse. That is why heaven does not simply restore your energy, it restores your order. Every miracle God releases carries within it a pattern, a rhythm of harmony between spirit, soul, and body. When that harmony is maintained, nothing external can steal what has been reborn inside you. You will begin to notice it quietly. Your discernment sharpens, your timing refines. The anxiety that once controlled your steps loses its voice. Decisions that used to drain you become clear. It is not because the world changed, it is because your foundation did. The root beneath you has stabilized. The current of divine power now moves through you without obstruction. You are not trying to feel spiritual anymore. You are becoming naturally synchronized with heaven's rhythm. This is what alignment truly means. Heaven and earth meeting inside the same vessel. It is when your words, thoughts, and movements begin to echo the same frequency. The war between will and purpose ends, and peace becomes your default posture. You no longer chase signs because you are one. You no longer wait for open doors because you carry the key. The outer life begins to mirror the inner life, and your presence itself becomes prophecy. Chosen one, this is the hour when you must protect what has awakened. Guard your root, not with fear but with reverence. The enemy cannot destroy what is aligned, but he will try to distract it. He will whisper urgency where God has declared peace, sow confusion where heaven has planted clarity. But remember, the resurrected do not wrestle for approval. They rest in identity. You do not need to prove what God has already pronounced. As alignment deepens, your senses will begin to function differently. You will feel divine timing before it happens. You will hear the subtle instructions between thoughts. You will sense when to move and when to stay still, not from anxiety but from attunement. The same spirit that raised Christ from the dead now flows through the corridors of your being, teaching your instincts to think like heaven. This is the law of resurrection. What rises must remain rooted. God builds upward only on what is grounded downward. The higher he lifts you, the deeper he anchors you. That is why he began at your base, so that glory could rise without collapse. Every miracle needs a foundation. Every destiny requires a structure strong enough to hold its weight. And now that your structure has been rebuilt, the next move of heaven will rest on you without breaking you. So walk slowly, speak intentionally, move with awareness. You are no longer reacting to life, you are reigning through it. The peace you feel is not emptiness, it is equilibrium. It is what happens when resurrection completes its work and alignment becomes your nature. The same presence that hovered over the waters now hovers within your soul, saying again, "Let there be light." And there is. Eternal Father, Creator of light and Restorer of order, we come before you not with trembling lips, but with awakened hearts. We have heard your call in the silence, felt your breath within the stillness, and seen the signs written in the rhythm of our own bodies. You have reminded us that we are not fragments lost in chaos, but temples formed with purpose. Tonight, in this holy hour of alignment, we lift our voices and surrender the structure of our being back to you. Lord, you who formed us from the dust, breathe again into our foundations. Touch the root you designed, and let it remember the harmony of Eden. Cleanse every nerve that has carried fear, every muscle that has borne shame, every cell that has forgotten joy. Let your spirit move through the base of our spine like fire, through the first dawn, burning what is false, reviving what is true. We yield to your rhythm. We invite your presence not to visit but to dwell, not to whisper but to reign. Father, for every place within us that has been crooked, let alignment return. For every area where pain has spoken louder than promise, let your peace reclaim the throne. Teach us to carry obedience as easily as breath, to walk not in striving but in stillness, to let your will move through us like music, through an instrument perfectly tuned. Let the body we live in become the altar. You inhabit a living sanctuary where heaven and earth meet without interruption. Chosen one, Lift your spirit now. Feel the weight begin to dissolve as heaven's current passes through you. You are no longer the battlefield. You are the temple. You are no longer the wound. You are the well. What was once fragmented is now whole. What was once dormant is now awake. The alignment that began in obedience now blossoms into authority. The same spirit that hovered over the waters now hovers within your frame, declaring, "Be still, and know that I am God." Lord, seal this restoration with the mark of your covenant. Let no voice of confusion undo what you have built. Let no shadow steal the light that has been rekindled. May our bodies remember your rhythm, our souls reflect your order, and our spirits remain in perfect communion with your will. Teach us to walk in the quiet confidence of the resurrected, to move gently but powerfully, to speak rarely but truthfully, to live not in fear but in flow. And now, God of life and mercy, we consecrate every breath, every movement, every heartbeat to you. May every dawn remind us that resurrection is not an event, it is a rhythm. May every still moment remind us that obedience is not a burden, it is communion. And may every act of love remind us that alignment was never meant to be rare, it was always meant to be home. Let your glory rest upon this temple you have restored. Let your peace remain unbroken within this vessel you have claimed. And let every part of our being echo the truth that heaven has written upon us. We are yours, fully and forever. Amen.